morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a weekend episode of the Daily Red. It is Saturday, the 9th of August. In a weird way, yesterday, most of the day was quite quiet, but then a lot of stuff has come yesterday evening, a lot of stuff happened this morning. Well, we've players, we've exclusives, we've all sorts of things to talk about, and there's even a game this weekend. And I am delighted to be joined by, I don't know what to call you, Mr. Beyond the Cop, Lewis Aspinall. Lewis.
All of them, mate. All of them work. That was a good number of them there, actually. Oh, there we go.
Right,
your thing entirely stopped there on my end. Tremendous stuff. Hello? Can you hear me, yeah? Dave's gone. Dave's quit. I've made Dave quit. I've only been here 5 minutes and already I've made him walk out the door.
Well, it might be me that's freezing, actually, rather than my esteemed colleague, possibly.
You started going through my names and then it completely just froze and cut out. I didn't know how to respond to it. It's fine.
Well, we think, I'm hoping on the screen is there.
I don't know. Let me just double check. Sorry about this, everyone. We're just trying to sort out the bugs that have decided to crawl into the machine at some point while this has all been going on.
Yeah. Fingers crossed something will kick in. Sound like Adele here, Lou, but can you hear me?
I can hear you. Do not worry, I can hear you fine.
Well, fingers crossed we will get going fully on this. We'll see what buffers or what doesn't at a certain point. So the first thing I did want to talk about this weekend, Lou, is the Community Shield and that's coming up this weekend. Glorified friendly for you or any genuine excitement in the Community Shield?
I love the Community Shield. And I know that sounds so daft. So let's be honest, it's one of those things that if you win it, it's a trophy. If you lose, it's a friendly. Like, that's the best way to describe the Community Shield. I love it. United in 01, Chelsea in 06. If anyone sat there and said they didn't get excited watching Nunez put in that performance he did back in 2022 when we beat Man City, you're lying to yourself. And it can be viewed as a bit of an obstacle that's like, come on, let's just get out of the way. But it's Wembley. Big match. It's a trophy, whether you want to look at it like that or not. I'm excited, and the fact that it's against Crystal Palace, which is such a nice change of pace, I'm buzzing for it, mate. I don't know if you share the same sentiment surrounding the Community Shield, or if you think it's a glorified friendly as such.
I like it, but there's always a kind of thing that if you lose it, does it actually matter? There was that, as you said, There was a Nunez year, which was great and it was brilliant, but look what happened in that season where the midfield legs just completely fell apart. And then at the same time, there was the year where I think Minamino got the equaliser against Arsenal and we thought it would be a certain way and it didn't. It is good. And if we win it, it's great. But if we don't, will I be massively fussed? I don't know. But I'm actually confident tomorrow about how it'll unfold. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a tentative, trying to figure each other out chess match. Palace are going to go there and they're going to be up for it. Like, how often do they get to go to Wembley? It's not a lot. And yeah, it's a Community Shield, as I say, but I'm more excited just because I think this is going to be end-to-end, box-to-box. I think for the first 15, 20 minutes, Palace are going to give it 110% just to try and get it. The atmosphere is going to be incredible. I'm confident we'll get it done, though. I just think, that based on pre-season, there's a few question marks, but I think I've not seen anything that makes me think I'm concerned. The only area maybe would be set pieces. We do look a bit weak there, but I'm excited, mate, and I think this is going to be the first trophy of the season, build into what could easily be one of the best Premier League campaigns we've ever had. So I'm really, really excited for this and cannot wait to get back to Wembley. I'm excited.
Fair enough. Maybe you have just turned me a little bit more excited that way. I'll give you that, Lou. Fair enough. So we'll move into the major stories of the day. And if we start looking at the major stories of the day on Anfield Index, people, there are managers speaking galore. There's Eddie Howe talking, Arne Slot was talking in his embargo, and of course, there's a little bit from Crystal Palace side. But Lou, we'll start with the Alexander Isak thing, and I'm going to put this tweet on screen, and I'm almost going to hand over to you a little bit. Luke Edwards, Newcastle United have told Alexander Isak he will not be sold this summer, and move to Liverpool will be bought, sparking player fury. I mean, this is on the back, Lou, last night of Eddie Howe saying it's not that straightforward. Otherwise, we would have done that a long time ago when he was being asked, if Isak has to stay. I don't think we're in a position to be able to do that currently. I mean, you don't want to be derogatory all the time, but this is just absolute nonsense, isn't it?
I mean, how many articles have we seen on a daily basis, which is 1 minute it's he's going, then the next it's he's staying, then the next he's not signing a contract, and the next he is. Like, this is just people looking for every avenue of which that they can get clicks and views, because it goes against the grain of what's being said at the minute. Everyone knows that Isak is pushing for the move. Everyone knows it's not in Newcastle's control to just say, tough, you're staying. Because if he doesn't want to play, if he doesn't want to be there, you can't force him to do it. When we had Suarez in 2013 and we said to him the season before, like, look, just get through one more season and then you can move on. He had the best season of his career, arguably, well, for Liverpool, definitely, and then we sold him on the next summer. Isak doesn't sound like he's getting those offers. I know there was something the other day, which was he can either leave or he has to sign a new deal. There is no in between. If he's not going to sign a new deal, if he's not interested in one, and he's only adamant that he wants to leave this summer, you're not going to get that kind of season out of him. You're not going to get this incredible campaign where if you force him to stay, he'll just do as good as he did last year, maybe better. It doesn't work that way. If he's dead set on moving, if he's dead set on leaving, there's nothing they can do to get the best out of him next season. Just sell him on. And while I understand that there's a lot of people who are saying this deal's like guaranteed, he's definitely going to come to us, and there's ones where people are saying, he might not. It is still very much up in the air. It just depends if we're willing to stump up the cash. So I'm not believing for a minute they've said to him it's tough you're staying, but I'm not convinced we're as far along in this deal as people are maybe making out. I do think there is still a few hurdles to get over.
Well, this will be interesting. I suppose if we're talking about hurdles, it's interesting what a little bit more Eddie Howe said last night. So just got this on screen from the website. And this is what I wanted to ask you about, Lou. We've had discussions, and it's clear at the moment we can't have him involved with the group. I don't know how long that will be for. It's clear I can't involve him with the team at the moment. He's training later than the rest of the squad, and there've been discussions since the tour. I don't think disciplinary action has happened. I mean, that's a fascinating statement. And even here, look at this, Lou. Doesn't think we're playing against Villa. I want Alex to be playing today. I want him training tomorrow. We would love this player to be with us. Let me make that absolutely clear. But I don't see the current situation changing before Aston Villa. I mean, we all know where this is going, don't we?
Yeah. If he doesn't want to be, like I said, if he doesn't want to be there, you can't. I think Eddie Howe's making the right decision in terms of this can have a detrimental effect on the squad as a whole. You don't want someone who doesn't want to be there taking your dressing room to the other lads around him. Because if he starts doing this, who's to say a few months down the line, a Bruno Guimaraes doesn't do it, or an Anthony Gordon, or a Tonali again, or something like that. So I think he's making the right choice by saying, right, you're just excluded for now. But like you said, how long can you keep doing that for? Because you can't do it for the whole season. You can't just exclude him for the whole campaign and not play him. At some point, he's going to have to integrate him back in, or the club are just going to have to say, right, off you go. And I know that he was releasing things a few days ago saying that it's not his decision, it's down to the board. Newcastle's a shambles at the minute, not in terms of finances. We know the money they've got, but they can't spend it. Not in terms of the squad they've got, but there's no one with a footballing brain there who's operating things. It just feels very much like it's the Wild West over there at the minute. And if the board are the ones in charge of this, and Eddie Howe's saying, I want him involved, I want him playing, that can't be good for anything if Eddie Howe and the board have got different ideologies of how they want this to work. You can't just keep him out for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's the detriment to the club not to be playing him. But if you're not going to be playing him anyway, if he's not included with the first team, if you're not involving him in plans, there's no point keeping him there, paying high wages for someone who's just rotting away on the bench or on the reserves or not even in the matchday squad. Just move him on. I understand we've got a bias in this, but I don't know if you agree, Dave. Like I do not see the logic in keeping him out of the squad beyond the start of the season, unless it's Isak's decision as such.
No, and I think, and it looks like we're being joined by Newcastle fans in the chat panel as ever. So morning to you. Everyone's got their thoughts on this. I suppose the big thing for me is we've got history of this, as in we know what it's like with Torres, Coutinho, Suarez.
Yeah.
And time again, what history's told us and what we've learned is you've just got to let them go. No one is big at all. You've just got to try and get the biggest and best price you can. I mean, surely anyone sees that. I mean, the guy's not training. The guy doesn't want to play for Newcastle. And that's not trying to be derogatory to Newcastle. You're just sort of bearing out what you're seeing. I don't see any smarter move than getting him out, getting your alternatives. But let's be honest on this, Lou. Newcastle trying to get strikers in. They are having a nightmare right now, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, what's it been? There was João Pedro, Liam Delap, and Buemo. I think losing Callum Wilson was a bit of a mess. I understand he wasn't top quality, but it's been poor from them. And this is the thing, like, when you touched on Coutinho is a perfect example, and I know that not a lot of clubs can do this, but when you lose a player of that quality for the amount of money that there is, you can invest that elsewhere in the squad. Newcastle need more depth in midfield. Newcastle need defenders. There's so many other areas of the pitch they need to improve on, and they're struggling to get anyone through the door that isn't a reactionary transfer. They're rushing to get deals done now because Isak wants to move. So they're not getting in the right people. Anyone they've identified has moved on to other clubs because they just don't have that pull, and it's a mess of a club at the moment. And when we sold Coutinho, we reinvested that money well. When we sold Suarez, we reinvested that money extremely poorly. Newcastle have a chance now to really solidify the squad as a whole. And they may dip for a year or two after losing Isak, but you can bring in other players that will help develop this team. There's still a lot of talented people there. So it doesn't make sense for me for them to just be keeping hold of this one player who doesn't want to be there when you could take the 130 million for him, for example, and bring in more centre-backs. You can bring in someone to rotate around that midfield three of Joelinton, Tonali and Guimaraes. It's the wrong call, and the channel just really feels like, or the club feels like it's just stagnant at the minute, and it doesn't bode well. And they've just come off the back of winning the League Cup and getting Champions League. I cannot remember a Premier League team that has got into the Champions League and has had such a poor transfer window, bar maybe us in 2014. And even then, we were signing players. Like, it's a mental time to be a Newcastle fan, and I do feel sorry for them to an extent, but Isak just needs to be sold. There's no benefit to keeping him there beyond this moment in time.
Yeah, it does feel almost inevitable. It feels we're waiting. But at the same time, we've been saying that for many weeks, people. So we'll see if anything happens today, this weekend, into next week. It's all a bit of a waiting game for us on this one. I suppose, speaking of manager comments, our man Arne Slot was speaking and he was heaping praise on Liverpool's summer signing. So a couple of interesting bits in this one, Lou, that I wanted to see what you thought. He actually said here, I feel that the players we've bought in have already done really well as expected, because that's why we bought them in. But I cannot tell you now if these players are able to perform at the same level every 3 days. And he references even here for Florian Wirtz. We have to ask him in 2 months if the intensity levels of the Premier League are comparable with the Bundesliga. Now, where we stand right now, Lou, with the players that we've bought in against the players that are no longer playing for us, how are you feeling about the window so far and the way it's shaped at the moment?
I mean, look, it's if you'd have said to me a year ago we were going to sign Florian Wirtz for over 100 million, Ekitike for close to 80 million, Frimpong, Kerkez, and we were being linked to Isak, I'd have said you're nuts. Because last summer we signed Chiesa and Mamadashvili, and that's, it is what it is. This has been an incredible window so far, but for all the excellent signings we've made, it won't mean anything if we don't bring in more depth at centre-back. We've fixed a lot of problems. We fixed our right-back issue, our left-back issue, striker issue, definitely, and we've added more depth to midfield in Florian Wirtz. But we've lost Quansah, which is a big blow to that back line. I know he discussed the other day about how Endo can play centre-back, how Gravenberg can play centre-back. That's not for me personally. We need more options there. We've lost Diaz and saw the promotion of Rio Engamoa, which is great, but do we need more options there? Possibly. All in all, it's been a phenomenal window. And like Slot says, I think he's done very well in what he's done there is sort of not lower people's expectations, but he's tried to put a bit of a lid on it, because we've seen countless times in the past clubs go out and have these amazing, amazing summer windows and they get all the hype and expectation on them. And sometimes it doesn't live up to that. And I think he's doing the right thing of just saying, right, these lads are brilliant. We know they're brilliant, but it's one thing looking good. It's another thing maintaining it on a long-term basis. And I think since he's got in Slot, he's always said the right things at the right time. I've got no issue with this. He's absolutely right in what he's saying there. And he's just putting a bit of a cooler on it and just saying to us, look, we've done amazing, but just don't get too carried away. There's still work to be done and there's a long season ahead of us. So no major issue, but there are issues that have stemmed from this window.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, as you mentioned, there's probably still a few positions to fix. Everyone's looking at certain positions, centre-back especially, which we're going to talk about shortly. And the other bit that Arne Slot referenced in his summer spending, which you should load up in a sec, is around, it was this one, the net spend element. Now, net spend is obviously a topic that sometimes people love to bring into the mix, but it should be noted, as Arne Slot is saying here, Liverpool have brought money in, especially recently, haven't they? Darwin Núñez, there might be more to come with the likes of Harvey Elliott. The net spend balance isn't anything like rival fans are making out, is it?
No, not at all. Everyone's sort of saying that we've gone out and we're doing a Chelsea and we're spending disproportionate amounts of money, spending X amount with no income. This year, we've earned back over half of what we've spent so far. And when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, the players that we've sold as well, you could maybe make the argument for Luis Diaz, but everyone else is like, yeah, I get why we've sold him. And even then, I get why we sold Diaz. Like, Jarell Quansah maybe deserved more time, but we got a lot of money for him. Núñez needed to leave. Tyler Morton, we've got upwards of £10 million for. That's brilliant business. Kelleher, we got a lot of... we got money for Kelleher, not a lot. I think we've done very well, and we've got rid of the players who didn't have a future, who were... You could see they were stagnating. Kelleher was too good to be a backup goalkeeper. Núñez was not good enough to be a starting striker, and we've done so well to recoup, and we've still got Elliott who could potentially leave. There's more money there. Chiesa's another one. So as much as people want to say, oh, Liverpool can't say that they've not spent money. No, we've never said we don't spend money. Maybe in some windows like last year, we're aware that we spend good amounts of money, but the reason we do that is because we recoup so much in player sales. It's because we're smart with how we do our business in terms of who we sell and the amount we sell them for. Jordan Ibe, Dominic Solanke, Christian Benteke, Jarell Quansah, like the list's endless. And this summer is no different. It's just we're doing it on a much bigger scale to how we have been in previous years, where we sign 2 or 3 players for a decent price and sell amazing amounts for high prices. We're doing the exact same thing, just we're spending more and selling for more. So it's no different than any other years. It's just heightened.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see again how much is going to be spent by the time this all shuts early in September. And the other comment I did want to ask you about, which there's been a lot of discussion about this, but it's this one specifically, Lou. If you won it last season, it's quite normal that you are part of the favourites again for next season. For me, it would not be normal if it's about spending because, as you said, the net spend of us compared to other teams is not in our favour if you look at it at the last two seasons. Now, if we see what's happening at the moment, we know Arsenal have gone for Gyökeres, haven't they? City have spent a fortune in January, a fortune in the summer. However, if anyone missed the news last night, Rodri looks like he's out until the first international break. So that's a consideration for where the Premier League could end up. But this bit here, if you won it last season, it's normal you're the favourites again for this season. Lou, at the moment, the way
it's normal. It's like how many seasons in a row were City the favourites? Like because they won it the season before. Chelsea the year after they won it with Conte, they were pretty much everyone's favourites. You know, it's natural. You're gonna be. You've won it the season before, and what people don't realise as well. And I was saying this the other day on Zach's channel. We won the league last season, but we didn't play that well at points. I think there was a good few matches where we managed to just get by and just scrape through it, and we struggled against a lot of teams in certain matches. We struggled against Everton, we struggled against Brighton, United, but we were still able to win the league and put out good performances when it mattered. This season, we've gone from strength to strength. We've brought in one of the best midfielders in the world, one of the most promising strikers in Europe, two of the best fullbacks in Europe. Like we've strengthened without losing any one key in that squad, apart from maybe Luis Diaz. So naturally, we are going to be viewed as the title favourites. City have spent big. It doesn't really mean a great deal when your whole system revolves around Rodri staying fit. I don't think Pep's long for Man City, to be honest. Arsenal, yeah, they've done very well, but they've got history behind them. They're becoming a bit of a Tottenham in that sense. I don't know. I think it's natural for people to look at us and think we're favourites, given the fact that Slot came in, taken over from Klopp, which was a big thing. We've now got Salah and Van Dijk, who we know are going to be here this season and beyond. Trent's gone, that whole saga's over, and we've brought in a lot of positivity. So for people to say we're the favourites, yeah, it's because we won the league last season, but it's also because we've had one of the best summer windows so far in the history of the Premier League. If we get Isak, undeniably one of the best in the Premier League history. So that's why, if you want to be competing with the best, you've got to sign the best, and that's exactly what we've done. So it's completely natural that people feel this way.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I suppose to use a phrase that you said there, if you're competing with the best, well, you need defenders, you need centre-backs, and you need option at centre-back more than anything. And I suppose it's still an element of a manager talking, but Crystal Palace there, Olivier Glasner, he's been talking about Mark Gay, saying naturally he's got a year left to go. Palace want him to sign a new deal, but you never know. And Mark Gay will be captain tomorrow. Look at that, there's the quote. We never know what happens in this sometimes crazy transfer market. And in the crazy transfer market, Lou, we of course have this gentleman on the screen who talks a lot. But Romano was mentioning Leone this morning as well, saying that Liverpool, still very interested. And it does seem, for all the centre-back talk, and we've had Kuliaraki, Schlotterbeck, all sorts of names in the window, does it genuinely feel like we're almost Guess Who style knocking the tiles down and we are narrowing to Mark Gay or Giovanni Leone?
Yes, I wanted Luke Haber at one point, but just that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And yeah, I completely agree. And to be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if we ended up getting both of them within the next year. Maybe we do wait for Gahey's contract to run out. Maybe we do get Leone this summer. But yeah, I think we're looking at a narrative where we do end up getting both of them, given Konate's contract situation, given the lack of depth we have. Gahey's a brilliant player, a leader, won the FA Cup with Palace, of course, but he's also been one of the most... he's in the England squad amongst some of the best defenders the Premier League's ever seen, like your John Stones, your Kyle Walkers, etc. And he just doesn't look out of place. And I think he'd fit the mould of what we want in Liverpool in terms of leadership roles. But then you've also got Giovanni Leone, who I've looked into so much recently. And there's question marks over whether he's ready. He's obviously only made 29 appearances. Only 17 of them were in Serie A, because the season before last he was in Serie B. But he's an ambidextrous player, capable of playing on his left foot, his right foot, comfortable in a back three. So when Kerkez inverts into that midfield sort of role, we've got a back three. He's comfortable there. 6'5", incredibly quick, and has been described as someone whose play style mirrors Van Dijk, who he idolised growing up. He's very calm, very composed, and he's 19 years old. And I think that whoever we bring in now of that age and that ilk is probably going to be viewed as the long-term successor to Van Dijk when he moves on. So getting Guéhi is a brilliant signing for now. It's a fantastic one. Getting Leone, someone also capable for now, but it's also someone who could be here for a long, long term, like Guéhi in a similar sense. So I believe we get both of them. I'm happy to dream, and I think that's what I'd love. I know Inter want Leone as well. But yeah, I'm fully confident that we can do it. We only bid, I think it was 4 million less than what they want. So for me, I think we can get that done.
It's an interesting one. And I suppose, I mean, as we're talking about that, 'cause we're saying Leone, and Gay. I suppose this is what it comes down to a little bit for me. Leone, yeah, you're right. I mean, you see the videos of him. He is a unit for such a young age, but there will be that question mark against the kid because of playing in Italy, lack of minutes, and coming into a squad that's competing for a Champions League. That's not doubting his talent. It's just a jump from where he is at Parma to where we need him to be. Whereas Gay, people will look and say, yeah, probably not as good as Konate, but a solid option, and you know, got real form, pedigree, homegrown, ticks a lot of boxes that way, of course, at the same time. For you, and I do want to ask you this almost as a two-part, is Leone enough, or would it have to be Gay and Leone for it to be that successful or a good centre-back setup?
I think it'd have to be both, just because you've got Gomez, who, you know, God love him, he will get injured again inevitably. It's just a fact of life at this point. The sun goes up, death taxes, Joe Gomez gets injured. But then you've also got Konate, whose contract's definitely winding down. We know that. Van Dijk's not going to be here forever. We've got Van Dijk on a 2-year contract, and we need to use these 2 years not for the immediate success, but we need to start planning for what comes next. Same with Salah's position. And I think getting both Guéhi and Leone offers you both solutions. You've got someone who's ready to come in now, and you've got someone who's ready to come in now but is also capable for the future. Signing one of them is all well and good, but then Konate gets injured or his contract runs out and you're back to 2 centre-backs. We need more than 2, and then Endo and like Robertson. So getting both of them for me, I think, is an imperative move, not just for now, but for how we build for the next few years. We've got to start future-proofing. Van Dijk has been unbelievable. One of the best centre-backs in our history, up there with the likes of Hansen. You know, it's Sami Hyypiä. There's so many. But we do need to start looking for what comes next. And I think Leone is a big, big part of that. And Mark Guéhi is also someone who you can bring in, a leader, to go with like Szoboszlai, who's the captain for his national team. Salah is another one, just to name like Van Dijk. It's massive that we get both of them in, I think, for this summer.
Yeah, it is tough. It will be interesting to see. And I suppose I did want to steer into this a little bit because naturally I've asked you about Gay and Leone, and we've talked about Isak and Eddie Howe's comments. If it was Isak and Gay and no more, is that enough for you, or have you got concerns still?
No, I'll still be concerned, because as much as I'd love Isak and I'd love Guéhi 100%, it doesn't. Like 2020, we had an amazing attack. We just signed Jota to give us even more depth up top, to Mane, Firmino, Salah. You know, that was massive. We had no solidified defence, no back line, and it really cost us that season. That was our title defending campaign. You go back to 2013-14, yeah, you had Suarez and Sturridge and Coutinho and Sterling and Gerrard, but you also had a back line consisting of Ali Sissoko, Martin Skrtel, John Flanagan, Mamadou Sakho. We conceded over 50 goals and we didn't win the league because of it. You need a stable back four. You need depth in that defence. It's all well and good us signing Isak and saying, all right, we'll just outscore teams. What happens if, touch wood, it doesn't happen? But who's to say Van Dijk doesn't get a knock? Who's to say Canate doesn't get a knock? And then we end up with Endo as our back four alongside whoever else. You can't keep clean sheet with that situation. We concede too many goals, I feel, as is at the moment. Even when we're dominating games, we're still conceding. So losing that depth and that quality at the back would be so detrimental. We have to look at signing more defenders. Isak, brilliant, get it done. But without that defence, it just feels pointless to me. So there would still be concerns, even if that was how we ended the window at just them two. We need another person just to give us that little bit of solidity. I might be being greedy, I don't know, but maybe it's years of repressed transfer rage. Not 100% certain, but it needs done, I feel like, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do feel that. I think Isak, or you think it's going to be Isak and Gay most likely, but you wouldn't be absolutely certain on that. Does feel almost the minimum now. And you're right, that's sounding so first world problem, so greedy based on what we've seen this summer. But if we do want to compete on all these fronts, people have got to come in, haven't they? And it's got to, bulk out the squad. Maybe that is the right way of putting it overall. Plenty there to talk about, ladies and gents. And I suppose this last bit, Lou, because literally, if I'm looking at AI channel here, there is an absolute smorgasbord for you there, people. Look at this in the last 24 hours. An absolute video orgy. You've got Lewis Steele talking about the game, the exits. You've got Dave Hendrick talking about Barcola and Rodrigo. Barcola's been shut down. We haven't mentioned him too much, but is there anything more? Lewis talking about Isak there as well. Gags and Griggs talking about centre-halves especially. Who's next? And a farewell to Darwin Núñez, which there is 1,000,001 things to cover. I suppose the final bit I wanted to ask you, Lou, for this weekend, there's a Community Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to steer into next week. What are you, or what's your gut telling you is going to be happening next week in terms of what's going to dominate all the headlines? Naturally, without saying a Bournemouth game on Friday.
It's still going to be Isak, let's be honest. Until a definitive resolution, until the transfer window's shut and we know whether he's with us or he's still at Newcastle or he's wherever, that is going to continuously dominate headlines. It's like when Bellingham was getting linked to us, that was a big one. It's like when Mbappe was apparently getting linked to us, even though that was ridiculous. Until this saga comes to an end and the window shut, every single day is going to be dominated by Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak. Oh, Liverpool just beat Bournemouth. Oh, Liverpool lost to Bournemouth. That's why they need to bring in Isak. Oh, they won. Maybe they don't need Isak. That's going to be the main talking point. Even if we win the Community Shield, even if we batter Bournemouth, which of course we will. Yeah, that's the only thing I can see dominating our headlines for the next month, let alone week.
Yeah, it does feel that way. What's that GIF or meme or whatever it is, that one from Titanic where it says that old lady says it's been 84 years. It does kind of feel a little bit like that, and it has just dragged and dragged. But maybe Newcastle get one or two strikers through the door. Maybe we get further developments at centre-back. Maybe we win a Community Shield. And maybe, well, zero doubt on this one, we will all be absolutely bang up for Friday night under the lights at Anfield against Bournemouth when it comes. People, put it in the chat panel. Sort your internet out, Dave. Pay your internet bills. I do. I've no idea. It's just been a nightmare. I've no idea what's going on. Been buffering with all sorts of things. But I should say thank you to the man who's really carried the show there. So, Lou, for answering all the questions, covering most of it, it is much appreciated, sir.
No, thank you very much. I always appreciate being on. I love how before this started as well, you literally asked me, have you sorted out your internet? And then it's just completely went the opposite way.
Yeah, that's literally how we started, wasn't it? Have you sorted out your internet? Get ready for a grilling. I'm going to look at the whites of the eyes. And now my camera's not working. And there you go. Things happen, eh? But
it's fine.
On Saturday, the 9th of August, people, that was another Daily Red for Anfield Index.